What's up, people? Back with another reaction, and this time I'm going to get to a track that I sort of feel like I've been remiss with. I really feel like I should have hit this a little earlier because not only did it set my brain on fire when I got the record, but it sort of grew out of something that I happened to attend, so it's sort of, maybe not a personal connection to me per se, but something that I experienced, in which then I was very happy to get sort of an artifact that paid homage to that. So let me explain what I'm talking about. I mentioned a couple other videos. I'm friends with a guy named Jose Rodriguez. He lives in LA County. I'm not sure if it's LA proper, maybe Hawthorne, something like that. But basically, he's a guy that I've become friends with in the last 5-6 years. When I joined SoundCloud and Facebook, I think I joined SoundCloud 2013, Facebook 2015. Over the next little while, I started, bumping into lots of different acid techno people online. Not only some people that I already knew, but there was a whole wave of people from Europe and other places that I hadn't been friends with, and through Facebook and posting my mixes, I ended up becoming friends with a number of these people, and one of them was a guy named Jose Rodriguez, who, like I said, runs the Official label, which is an acid techno label based in Southern California. You gotta love, if you're an acid techno guy like me, if you're a vinyl guy like me, you must praise and thank any acid techno label that comes about in Southern California. That's just so super dope. I was gonna say so cool and super dope. But yeah, so big ups to Jose, big ups to Lethal One. We're going to look at a tune that I think is probably still the most famous tune on the record, or on the label. It was a tune that comes from Secret Hero, aka Dave the Drummer, aka Henry Cullen, and Lethal One. It's a collab. And it's interesting. It's called Sylmar Acid Test. So I'm going to try to be concise here. We're going to get to the tune as quickly as possible, but I do have to say that it was like the second half of 2015, maybe August, September, something like that of 2015, there was a techno party in Southern California that included on the lineup not only, I think Lethal One played, I'm fairly certain, but whether or not I'm remembering that right, definitely Dave the Drummer played. And so I had seen Henry Cullen, Dave the Drummer, do a live set at a party. It was probably 98 or 99. I'm going to say 99. It was called Oracle. It was in Pomona. It was at this Glass House venue, which I've talked about before, but they also had like a building across the street, so like the entire like street in downtown Pomona, it's like Gary and 3rd or so on. The entire street was sort of blocked off, and there were like multiple buildings. Anyway, I saw Dave the Drummer do a live set. He was on his gear, and I had been listening to acid techno for a couple years by that point, but this is the first time that I was able to actually see a like proper London acid techno set live. It blew my mind. So then I didn't see Dave the Drummer play again for 16, 17, 18 years. So if it was 98, it would have been 17 years, right? Because this was late 2015. So there was a party in Sylmar, and if you're not from Southern California, Sylmar, it's technically what they call an unincorporated territory. It's not a city. It's not even technically a town. It doesn't have a municipal structure the way a town does. But basically, it's this unincorporated territory. There's a lot of, like industrial sort of plots and other like non-residential areas. I don't know exactly what the venue was. It was outdoor. It seemed to be like a campus. I don't know if it was like a corporate campus or maybe like a school or something, but it was like we had to park and walk like 15-20 minutes from where we parked, and then eventually it was like this outdoor area, not super huge, it was like a sort of tight little outdoor area, and I was introduced to Henry by Jose. Shout out to Jose for doing that. He was aware that I had been a fan of Dave the Drummer for a long time, and he already knew Henry. They had already become friends and I think collaborated on some level before. So he introduced me to him, and to Henry's credit, we sat there and had a good talk for like 10 minutes about the evolution of techno and acid techno specifically, and sort of the stuff he was playing more recently. And it was really dope. He didn't know me at all, but we sat there and had a good talk, and it was really rewarding to get to have that chinwag with a friend, or not with a friend, but with an artist that I had long followed, thanks to a friend of mine, Jose Rodriguez. So big ups to Lethal One again for making that introduction. It was really nice to get to talk to Henry. But anyway, so he played that party. He played his Hotwire track. It was really dope. I remember Jose was there with his wife, and we were all, like kind of the three of us and some other people. We were right up front in the set, really grooving it. I was definitely enjoying it. So then in the months after that, my understanding is that, I don't know if it was while Henry was still out here in California or if it was after he went back and it was sort of a, over the internet sort of collaboration, but they, Jose and Henry, eventually got in the studio, or maybe multiple studios, and produced this tune, which is called Sylmar Acid Test. So it is essentially an homage to the party that he played at, even if this track obviously was not played at the party itself. So again, it's sort of a cool thing that this track, which I think hit people's brains very nicely. If you go and look at my Discogs review on this, I think it's like 7 or 8 people, liked the post, and there was someone who interacted with it. It obviously, I was feeling, other people were feeling the same way that I was about this track, which is clear by the way that, just my Discogs comment on it was responded to. And indeed, I just think this is an amazing tune. As I wrote in my Discogs review, it has sort of an old school flavor, old school stylings, but it still sort of has a modern sound as well. So I think it's sort of the best of both worlds in that respect. It pays homage to the old school acid techno sound, but it has characteristics that are perhaps, more recent in nature. So yeah, big ups to Jose, big ups to Henry Collin. Let's get to it. I do apologize. I know that was like 5 or 6 minutes of setup, but like I said, I do feel like I had to mention the party that was in Sylmar, and I did have to mention that it was nice to get to talk to Henry after I had seen an amazing set by him 15 years earlier, 17 years earlier, and then again hadn't seen him until way later. So that was dope. So let's get to it. Secret Hero and Lethal 1, Sylmar Acid Test on Official 3. Hello. Let's start it at the right tempo, huh? Let's do that. Already that little subterranean acid pulse. It's tasty. Right out of the gate, we're tasty. Right before that measure transition. I've used this in, I don't know, half dozen sets since I got it. So this does tend to happen. I have double copies of a couple officials. I think I have double copies of the first one. I have a white label, which again, I just happen to get a lot of white labels over the years. But yeah, I have a white label and a regular copy of the first release. And I think, is it this one? Maybe I just have this copy, but there's another official I have 2 copies of. Testament to the label's quality. Although I'm still lagging, the very last one, I've been meaning to get it for like a year. I apologize, Jose, I am going to pick it up. My collection, my official collection must be complete, but in North LA, hey, in Sylmar town, the acid test is going down. In North LA, in Sylmar unincorporated territory. Is going down in North LA, in Sylmar town. The acid test is going down in North LA, in Sylmar town. The acid test is going down. I'm going to assume that's Henry on the vocal. I know Jose's voice better. I don't think that sounds like Jose. I think that's Henry. Or maybe they got an outside person to do the vocal, I'm not sure. But it's slowly rising, right? It's like it started on like 150 degrees, we're slowly cranking up the temperature a little bit. Big snare roll, so now we're gonna go to the next, yep. Now the gurgly, rhythmic acid phrase comes in. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. To that, it was almost like shattering glass, kind of like synthetic shattering glass. Little details, man, make a big difference. Now a more focused, energetic acid layer. Still got the pulse, we still got that little rhythmic phrase, but now we have a sort of driving, needling acid line below it. Those snare rolls are great. That little horn, that synth is brilliant. As I was getting ready to listen to this tune, I wasn't thinking about that element. I was thinking about the acid. I was thinking about the acid layers. I was thinking about the vocal. I wasn't thinking about that sort of horn type synth. Again, I mentioned in the Discogs review, I've already said it a couple times, I feel like this track has a very old school flavor when it comes to the acid techno, and obviously it's partly or mainly the acid work itself, and I feel like it's because it just keeps building and growing, getting slightly hotter. You know, there's a lot of tunes, I'm thinking of maybe like Dynamo City Shapeshift or something like that, where like, you know, the riff is there from the very early part of the track, but it keeps heating up, and the accents start getting crazier and a little sharper and sharper. And I feel like the temperature level of this track, you're like a lobster, you know, you put you in the pot, you're good, okay, I like the way it sounds, holy shit, it's getting hot, but I'm still liking it, holy shit, I'm dead. Like, it's slowly baking you with the acid, or boiling you with the acid, even though there's no moment that feels like an insane, like, ratcheting up of the intensity. It's a gradual build. But I mean, listen to the acid now, compared to the beginning. It's singing out. I heard someone on Discogs, I remember saying they thought the vocal was a bit too frequent. I disagree. I think the vocal is part of why this track really works. And now we have this electrified drone. I think I called it like a techno cicada sound in my Discogs review. Brilliant. First time I heard this, I was like, oh, this went to a territory I wasn't expecting. Love that little eccentric. Almost sounds like a modern, like harder, like rougher edge version of that old. Oh, it's a Richie Houghton, Plastic Man. It's a remix of something. It's this really famous. I have it somewhere. Let me see if I can conveniently just pull it out real quick, because that would be very helpful if I could put a name on this. Oh, of course I'm not going to be able to find it, but it's a classic remix. Oh, wait a minute. Is this it here? Hold on. This is the problem with having a lot of records, my friends, is that sometimes it's hard to find a single thing. Well, I can't find it, but it's a Plastic Man remix. Oh, it's like Alpha something, Alpha 777. The Plastic Man, it's like this really long, like 11-minute sort of acid journey. This sounds to me like a slightly rougher, tougher, harder version of that. Because it has this in the Plastic Man remix. It's Alpha Wave 777. That's what it is. I couldn't find it. I know it's in this bookshelf. I've seen it in the last few days. Maybe I'll have to get to that one at some point. That's a real sort of classic tune. Goes back to my earliest days.
In Sylmar town,
listen to the vocal.
The acid test
I'll stop talking.
Is going down in North LA. In Sylmar town, the acid test is going down in North LA. In Sylmar town, the acid test.
That sort of industrial quasi-drone sound is just brilliant. Oh, it's getting harder, and there's like another layer to it. It's like double. Filth. Love it, man. And you know, we're just waiting for the acid to come dipping back in. We're ready for it. Give it to me, my man. You just feel it coming, dude. Come on. The techno cicadas are just like at the peak like frequency now. I love that. It's one of those tunes where the different elements just blend together excellently. And for me, that includes the vocal. Like, again, I heard one or two people say, it's a little too frequent. Nah, not for me. Did that cymbal coming bouncing over the top? Acid now firing loud and proud again. What a wow. snare building. I mean, again, sometimes the tune is so good it makes me laugh. It's just like, how do you respond to this? Now maybe you're beginning to double drop out, beginning to mix out if you're transitioning out, if you're not finishing with this tune. Although it is one of those tunes that has such an epic, big sort of quality, I think you could use this as a set ending tune, certainly. It is one of those tracks that, like, you don't need to say anything after it ends. It's like, yo, that tune said everything I needed to. And another reason I love this vocal is because when you're double dropping out, I think that vocal layers very nicely over an incoming tune. And again, like, sometimes there's like vocals in both tracks, but the way they're rhythmically aligned is that you get like in North LA, yeah, in Sylmar Town, yeah, like you can actually like find another track that will have vocals in the same phrase but that they don't get in each other's way. They sort of fill out different parts of the measure. That's brilliant. I forget what tune it was now that I say that, but I do remember mixing out of this one time into another track, and it had like perfectly offset vocals as I was double dropping in the transition. It was glorious. So again, big ups to the vocal, big ups to them not, being timid with it or, oh, is this like a little too often? I really think the parts where it's in, it works with the other elements excellently. So big ups to the vocal. And again, maybe there's a 5% part of me that feels especially strong in that regard because I went to that party in Sylmar where the germinations of this tune were beginning to coalesce. And back to the pulse. Bookending. I'm talking about it more and more, like, tunes can end differently than they start, there's nothing wrong with that, but there is something to be said for a well bookended tune that kind of, it builds up and then dissembles with the same kind of like progression of the elements. And obviously that's a very DJ friendly sort of tune. Any tune that has a sort of long assembling intro and a long dismantling outro going to be very nice for a DJ. But we still have the pulse and still that like random, a little eccentric kind of warble. So you can mix right to the end here and it's still evident what you're mixing out of. It's not just naked kick and hat where it's like, why are you even still double dropping? So it goes right to the end and then a proper end, a faded sort of cymbal crash. Love it. Honestly, as I said before, I'm a fan of pretty much every record on that label. I have every one, I think, but the most recent one, which I still feel bad about, and I still need to get around to adding it to my collection. Perhaps now that I started doing these videos, it adds an extra impetus and motivation for me to do that. So hopefully I can come back and we'll talk about that record sometime soon. But I hope you enjoyed that. Honestly, it's an amazing tune. I'm like very happy, and not that I'm sort of a father figure or anything like that, but I'm very proud of Jose that, again, he's running an acid techno label in Southern California, making like not only good tunes himself, but bringing in people like The Geezer and Sterling Moss and Chris Liberator on his label, so that the tunes on both sides of like every record are just top quality, excellent. So I'm a big fan, and I'm a friend, and I absolutely praise him for what he's been doing these last 6 or 7 years since I got to know him. So big ups to him, big ups to this record, big ups to Secret Hero. I feel like this was the first time Secret Hero, that moniker, had been used since Henry's earlier days. And if like there was a few years where he was moving away from acid techno, wasn't really doing it anymore, didn't really seem to be all that involved with it. And I feel like maybe this tune was sort of the beginning of him coming back. And indeed, if you look at my Discogs review, and which was written very quickly after it came out, so this is now a review from like 6 years ago, something like that. I said something to the effect of, let's thank Jose for getting Henry to come back and make tunes as Secret Hero again. That's a big thing. And if you don't know, There's a Secret Hero 303 Alliance, like limited edition, that is absolutely brilliant. A tune that he made with Phil Kershaw named Keep It Simple. Fucking hell, I'm going to have to review that one. What a tune that is. And now he's making tunes as Dave the Drummer again. There's a new Dynamo City release on Stay Up Forever. So, again, big ups to Henry for sort of, finding his way back to making this. And I know he still does make other techno that's not so fast and sort of wild like acid techno. I know he does a lot of stuff. But I'm just really happy that he's making this kind of stuff again in the last 5 or 6 years, and I think we can give Jose some credit in that regard. So again, big ups to Jose Lethal One, big ups to the label Official, big ups to Southern California Acid Techno. You have to love it if you're out here like I am and he is. But yeah, if you want to hear more stuff like that, let me know. If there's another track on the label Official you'd like to hear, let me know. I'd love to react to it. And in general, any more feedback you have, I'd love to hear that. Any recommendations or requests or suggestions, I'd love to hear those. So please, let me know if you have anything to say. Other than that, have a good day, have a good night. I'll see you next time. Peace.